Am I the asshole for not letting my Mill see my son when my husband is away for work? A little backstory: when I first found out I was pregnant and my husband and I told his mother, she cried and told us that they weren't happy. Tears cause there was nothing to be happy about. She barely acknowledged me during my pregnancy, but when I had my baby I had to have an emergency C-section and was in hospital for 5 days before having my son due to pre-eclampsia. Then after I had my son I was in the hospital for another 2 days, so I was very ready to go home and just be a family. When my husband and I got home, he invited his mother over, which I didn't mind too much about at the start until she walked into my house, hugged my husband and congratulated him, then walked over to me, didn't even acknowledge me, and without even asking just took my son out of my arms. She then sat at my house for 4 hours, criticized how I was parenting my son and refused to give me my son when he would cry, even when he was hungry, cause she wanted to hear him cry. When she finally gave me my son back, I tried my best to discreetly breastfeed cause it was hard for me to get up and walk out to go somewhere else due to my C-section. When my son finally latched I was able to relax a bit, but then she proceeded to pull her camera out and try and take photos of me breastfeeding. When I voiced that I was uncomfortable, my husband told her to back off, so she put the phone away and stood right in front of me and just watched my son feed. My husband works doing FIFO, and when he went back to work after 2 months off, my Mill would message me asking how I was handling everything, and I would always say the same thing: everything was going fine. I was keeping busy and I was very lucky to have got such a easy baby, and say that we should catch up, but she would always ignore my messages, then message my husband saying I don't respond to her messages and am very rude when I do. My husband and I had multiple fights because of it until I sent him the screenshots of our messages, but he never confounded his mother about it. Skipping to Mother's Day, we did a lunch with his mum and she was sick, so we kept our distance so our son didn't get sick. She kept making rude comments to me the whole time about how I'm trying to keep her grandson away from her and she's never allowed to see him. My husband and I had a fight about it on the way home because he didn't stick up for me in the situation when he knew what she was saying wasn't true, but he told me to just ignore her. I told him that I won't be making any contact with her or letting her see our son when he is away at work until she learns to respect me, and he told me I was an asshole. I am such a peacekeeper when it comes disagreements and a pushover, and she knows this, and I think she will probably use it against me. Am I the asshole? Update. I just want to thank you all for your comments and advice. I showed my husband this post and we talked and I voiced my concerns to him. He agrees that his mother has crossed too many boundaries and he should have dealt with it from the beginning, but also didn't want to cause conflict with his mother. Backstory about Mill. When I first meet Mill we become really close and had an amazing relationship, but when her and my Phil got divorced she changed and become a very mean and spiteful person. Phil cheated on her with another woman. Mill attempted to turn me and my husband against Phil, but I didn't allow it to happen, and I believe that is why she started to turn against me. When my husband and I got married she got worse. I think she was scared I was trying to take the only person she had left away from her. Husband is an only child and a miracle baby. She become very suicidal and the smallest things brought on episodes. I think this is why my husband never confronted her. He was scared she would spiral into a suicidal state again. I'm not trying to make excuses for my Mill and husband because they most definitely are both in the wrong, but I can understand why my husband essentially did nothing about the situation with his mother because he was scared she would spiral out of control again. It hit him pretty hard. After talking to my husband he has agreed that Mill is not to visit unless he is home and only if I am comfortable in letting her into our home, and if she is to try and make any drama between my husband and I, including insulting me or how I parent my child or making me uncomfortable in any way whatsoever, he will tell her that she will have nothing to do with our son until she apologizes, and I feel that it is sincere. My husband showed me the messages he has sent to his mother, voicing both of our concerns when it comes to her behavior towards me and that it needs to end because although he does love her very much, his son and wife need to come first. There was a few other things he put in the message about boundaries we have set, but I guess I will update if and when he gets a reply, but I'm really glad I got the confidence to be able to confront my husband about my feelings towards this all, and he understood and it didn't turn into a catfight. Dear, you not only have Mill problem but a husband problem as well. Talk with him. Go to therapy together if can. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Your husband is, though. He really needs to grow a set and tell his mother to back off. Not the asshole. Your husband is the asshole for not having your back and being a coward to his mother. This needs to be the hill you die on or it'll only get worse. Do not talk to her at all. Let your husband deal with her BS. Not the asshole. This story belongs on @JustNamil on Reddit. She does not respect you and your husband isn't sticking up for you. This is ridiculous behavior and she needs to start respecting you and your boundaries. Not the asshole, she sounds horrible. If your husband won't stand up for you, stand up for yourself. Lay out strong boundaries. Am I the asshole for breaking a promise to take my niece and nephew for the summer? I, 34F, and my wife, 35F, were planning to keep her brothers, 40M, children, 10M, and 7F, for this summer as her brother and Sil wanted a break in time to themselves. We figured this would work out as a long-term fostering just finished for us and we'd been considering taking a break for a little bit to regroup and focus on our relationship before we took on our next placement. However, we got an emergency placement call last night with the agency asking us if we'd be open to taking on 3 children. Out of respect for them, I will not detail ages or genders, who needed immediate placing that would likely be long-term, and after asking for an hour to discuss it we sat down together and decided we'd do it and called back to accept. However, given this and the attention these children will need because of their situation, we've decided bringing 2 other children not part of this sibling dynamic into the house for a long-term stay is not wise. So my wife and I called her brother to explain this, and I even suggested, as we'll be somewhat settled by then and in a routine, that if my wife wanted to take her niece and nephew somewhere for the weekend, perhaps to visit her parents, I'd be more than happy to hold down the fort with our new children so my brother-in-law and his wife could get at least a little bit of time together. My wife liked that idea and agreed it could work out, but my brother-in-law did not like it one bit and got upset with us both over this, as we'd promised, and it would break the kids' hearts. My wife was annoyed by this and said that it wasn't like he'd booked a vacation anyway and he and his wife just wanted to spend time at their home, and it's not as perfect as the whole summer, but surely it's better than nothing. My brother-in-law then threw in our faces that his children were blood-related and yet we were taking in strangers' children over his. My wife has a temper when our fosters are insulted and she began to curse him out at this, and I took the phone off speaker at this point to let her calm down and told him if he felt that way we'd be unable to watch his children at all for the foreseeable future, and while we loved our niece and nephew we also loved all the children in our care, and until he realized that and apologized he'd not get to take advantage of our childcare. I also may have told him I hoped his children never needed to be in a placement like the ones we will be caring for. A low blow, I know, but my wife wasn't the only one annoyed. Since then some of my wife's family have been hounding us over this and how it is unfair of us to let down the children, and how while I was her wife I had no right to take over the phone call at the end and make that decision alone. We've since stopped answering all calls from them for now. Maybe it was wrong to take over the call and to cancel plans we'd promised already. I don't much care about upsetting him, but I feel guilty for my nephew and niece as we broke a promise made. Edit. Hi guys, bit busy currently, so this is an update to answer top questions as I don't have time to respond individually. I'll try to check back in on this in a few hours but may be unable to. My brother-in-law and his wife both work from home. There is plenty for their children to do in the area and his wife's family also live close by for emergencies. It is no different from any other school holiday plan they have usually. We aren't leaving them in a rut with having to be at work with no one to watch the children. Also, there seems to be some confusion. We were never going to watch them for 3 months back to back. I'd be horrified at someone wanting to get rid of their kids for a quarter of the year. The summer is a phrase here referring to a point in the summer break. Our intention was to watch them for July. Not the asshole. What kind of parents think they are entitled to 3 months off from their children? You are the asshole. Just because they haven't spent money on a trip doesn't mean they didn't make plans or look forward to just enjoying each other for some time. You told someone you would do something for them, they asked and you agreed. IDK why people are calling them entitled, and then went back on it. You made that choice knowingly. I feel bad for the kids that were told their summer was going to be with you, but now you chose to have different kids with you that summer instead. You are the asshole. You just showed your niece and nephew they don't mean they much to you. You promised and I bet they were so excited to be with you. Yeah, it's ridiculous they'd send their kids for the whole summer but you agreed. Your niece and nephew will only see this as you choosing kids that are not family over them. There will always be kids with need in foster care. But your family should come first. Imagine the memories they cherish they make with you. You broke a promise then tried to compromise which didn't work, then you became verbally abusive. You are no longer available. I understand you're feeling or hurt by what was said, however you have acted in exactly the same way rudely. It's very tit for tat. Hopefully your relationship with your niece and nephew won't be damaged and you can all be a hell of a lot more respectful to each other going forward. You are the asshole. No one forced you to commit to take your niece and nephew, but commit you did. Brother-in-law and wife are right to be furious. You just ruined their plans. You gave your word and took it back. They will never trust you again, nor should they. Am I the asshole for wearing a strong perfume? I, 19 female, am from Middle East country. Most perfumes here have a very strong scent and people can smell them from far away. I'm not a fan of these type of perfumes and I always wore light-scented. That is until my mum's best friend gifted me a tester of an Arab perfume and I honestly liked it. That was 3 years ago and I've been using it since then. Few weeks ago I arrived to Philippines for a vacation and have been enjoying here and I'm still using the perfume and my cousins liked it. So I didn't see any issues until today when I was in a store with my mum looking around stuff. And then a woman walked up to me and said my weird perfume attacks her poor nose and what kind of perfume is that? I didn't say anything because I was embarrassed and I didn't know what to say. My mum told her off and the woman left pissed. Now I feel bad because people have different noses and I know most people are sensitive when it comes to strong scents and some people can't even breathe being around someone who wears too much perfume. And if you're confused about how much do I spray perfume? 8 sprays before going out. 2 sprays on each side of the neck, shoulders, waist. 2 sprays on both arms. I hope it's understandable to read. I don't re-spray throughout the day because it can last a day and a half. Except if there's an occasion or SMTH special and if I do, I don't spray as much as before. Am I the asshole? Edit 052123. Hello everyone. I understand now that I'm in the wrong here. I want to say that I wasn't aware that 8 sprays is bad and I thought that's what all people do and thought that it's normal. Most people I've encountered, especially in college, bath in their perfume every day, probably more than 8 sprays. The classroom would be filled with mixed perfumes from here and there, and some re-sprays a lot too. And I get annoyed about it and I considered mine as less than how much they sprays. Well, I didn't know I'm one of them too. Now I'm not saying all people in Middle East are doing this too, no. But majority or just every people I've encountered. My friend had finished her bottle like 2 months, which is extremely extra for me. Mine can last for almost a year. I sometimes don't wear one. My mum or anyone around me didn't correct me for wearing too much perfume, so I thought nothing is wrong. Oh, how I wish someone spoke up to me sooner so that I would realize that this is wrong. And it did happen yesterday. I was surprised about how the sprays should be 1 or 2 sprays, but oh well. The more you know. So I see this as a lesson to me. I didn't all the comments, but I had read a lot of the comments and I'm very thankful that you guys have been nice to me. I was having a second thought of not posting because I kept thinking someone might send me a death threats or something, or insulting my entire existence. But I'm glad I posted so that I know that I'm in the wrong. I should have known that 8 sprays is too much. I know some would say, this one is dumb. Who doesn't know how much perfume they should spray, and I'm very sorry. I thank everyone here for being nice and educated me, and I also would like to thank the lady at the store for telling me, but I might not see her again, and if I do I would thank her and apologize to her. And I'm sorry for everyone and for people who are sensitive or allergic to perfumes. Believe me when I tell you I wasn't thinking properly. Few people had sent me a message asking for the name of the perfume. So for those who is also curious of what the perfume is, Gissa Imperial Valley Perfume. I hope you all have a wonderful day and night. Purple Heart. You are the asshole. 8 sprays of an already strong perfume? You know exactly what you're doing. That's way too much perfume. You said it lasts a day and a half? Yeah, way too much. Info. Why do you spray 8 times? Honest question. Isn't 2/3 enough if it's a strong perfume? Spray in front of you and walk through. That is all you need. YTA. My sinuses are hurting just thinking about 8 sprays of a strong perfume. Am I the asshole for taking my son from my aunt? Back in November my 38 female mother, 56 female, passed away. It was not sudden. Her family had little to do with her, especially her younger sister, Sin. My parents were married for 39 years, together for 40. My father was devastated when losing my mother. Yet, once the holidays went by he started to perk up. Part of that was in part due to visiting my 80-year-old grandmother regularly. Who lives with grandma, you ask? Sin, of course. A little background on Sin. She is a narcissistic human with intentions that serve literally only her. She will make money by suing for random bullshit at hospitals. She also has been cut on like a Thanksgiving turkey because of Munchausen syndrome. She virtually never spoke to my mother unless she was asking for money or fighting over something petty. My father, lonely and apparently having lost his damn mind, has been taking care of Sin. They have been carrying on a relationship. My siblings and I are all uncomfortable with this situation. She had nothing to do with us, then my mother dies and suddenly she is glued to my father's ass. But I digress. What he does with his penis is none of my business. My son, Luke, is 6 and very close with my father. He usually spends every other weekend with my dad, which is great. That is not the issue. The issue is that back in March Sin told someone, in front of me, that Luke is now her pseudo-grandson, and laughed because he started calling her Nana. No. His Nana died and this woman is legitimately confusing my grieving child. On purpose. I told my dad Luke is not to be around her as frequently anymore. He said okay, and Luke was supposed to be visiting my dad at my sister's house, where my father has been staying. Unbeknownst to me, Luke has been over at the trailer with Sin. Keep in mind, the trailer was my parents' trailer until my father gave it to Sin and Grandma to live in. So, Luke sees Sin in my mother's spot on the bed and, again, gets confused because he's little and doesn't understand. I get upset, but I try to just let it ride because I don't want to stress out my father or ruin his relationship with Luke. But now Sin, who can barely walk and often has bowel issues that lead to accidents, just to highlight her self-inflicted poor health, wants to drive my child 30 minutes away to a birthday party without my father present. I said no. I also explained that, despite my silence, I am in no way comfortable with this situation. I told her that my father is free to carry on with her as he likes because he is a grown man, but I do not feel my child is in a psychologically safe and healthy environment. I told her that prior to my mother's death he had no idea who she was and that he is not a toy. The fact she made zero efforts to have a relationship with him, or any of us, prior to my mother's death makes me uncomfortable. And that I'm not okay with them including my child in their whatever the hell it is. Am I the asshole for cutting her off from my child? Am I overreacting? Not the asshole. I'd be suspicious of Sin as well. That's really weird that she's essentially playing pretend with your son. It seems like she wanted what your mom had and is seizing the opportunity. She sounds extremely toxic and I wouldn't want my child anywhere near this person. Keep your son safe and maintain boundaries with Sin. Also, I'm so sorry for your loss. I just lost my dad and I know it's hard to go through that kind of loss. Not the asshole, so sorry for your loss. Do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself and your son and don't feel bad about having boundaries. You are the asshole for allowing your son anywhere near this confusing mess of a situation. Not the asshole. You have your rights over your child and your child needs to process what loss he has had. This aunt is off leeching on so quickly. Take your son, give your father an ultimatum. Not the asshole. Your father should only have supervised visitation with your son. And I don't mean supervised by your sister.